The following is an information session held by Recruitment and Communication Coordinator Lindsay Savageau on June 22nd at 6 p.m. through Zoom. The information is as up to date as possible, and we hope you enjoy. If you have any questions, please reach out to info@sizerschool.org.
Time. So guys, as I was saying, I have with us Elizabeth Dugas, who is our school nurse, who's going to be able to give you some more information about the health and safety aspects of what we're thinking next year is going to look like. So Liz, I'll turn it over to you for now.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm so happy to be here virtually with all of you. So as far as next year goes, we're working very closely with the Board of Health and the Department of Health and the Department of Education as far as following the guidelines when they become released. They should be released by the end of this week. And that will give us really our framework by which we'll be running next school year. One wonderful thing that we have about Sizer is the fact that we are a smaller school. So we're able to cater the guidelines. So when the guidelines come out, there'll be more of like almost like a checklist. You have certain things you have to hit at a certain time. At Sizer, because of our size and because of our staffing, we have the ability to really tailor what that's going to look like more than a large school would. So we are working with all of our sending districts as well as all of the state organizations to really make sure that our students are safe when they come back in whatever regards that coming back is going to look like. The work is going to continue throughout the summer, and all of the information that is being created is going to be very transparent to the students and to the staff and to the parents, so that there's no surprises when you walk in the door on the first day. All of the stuff will be trialed with a tiering system. So we're starting out with a small group of staff members who will basically run through like a mock day to make sure that everything makes sense. Then we'll do it with a larger group of staff. Then we'll do it with all of our staff. And then we'll do it with our students. So that way we make sure that it is going to work, so we're not running into kind of a train wreck. That's about all that I can say for right now. Does anyone have any questions? And I will do my absolute best to answer them.
So if you do have any questions, feel free to write them in the group chat. I know I've got everybody muted for the time being. That's mostly just to make sure that we're not bumping into each other's outside ambient noises. But please, if you have any chat questions, please put them in that chat. And if we don't get to them now, because Ms. Dugas is only with us for a short period of time, we can definitely answer them later. Isn't that correct, Liz?
Yep. And I just put into the chat my email.
Excellent.
So if you have a more specific question about your students' health or something more specific, you can absolutely email me. So I have a question coming in is Sizer going to be testing staff or students on site? Not currently. If that becomes a part of the guidelines that the education department puts out, then absolutely. But right now, just because of, for no other reason, just the materials that are needed, we're not looking to do on-site testing as much at this current moment, if that answers that question.
Anybody else have anything specific to student health or about reopening that we can answer? As you probably already know, we're in flux because the regulations that we're getting from the state, from the federal government, and then local boards of health are changing as time goes on, especially to coincide with what the state is asking us to do. So we're kind of moving and mixing pieces around as we're given to us. And we also will get more insight from DESE this week, correct, Elizabeth?
Correct, as long as they stay on schedule.
Excellent.
And then as soon as we get any information and as soon as we get those plans going, they go immediately out to all of the families. So we really try to be as transparent as possible because these are really unprecedented times, and not knowing day to day can be really scary. So if we can eliminate any of that by just sending out an email every week, like, this is what we've been doing, what we're planning, this is what this part is going to look like, it helps us be able to be more prepared to come back in the fall.
So the Essential Schools came up with this list. It's the Essential Schools 10 Common Principles. You'll see these in almost every single classroom and as well as any common place within the school. That is because these are 10 of the most important things we believe are essential to learning and active learning. So we said learning to use one's mind well. Well, what does that mean? It means not just being able to solve the equation, but figure out how the equation relates back to life. Less is more, depth over coverage. We will make sure that every student gets the lesson, whether it's in class that day with extra help in another class, whether it's we get it, but we want to know more. This is what we mean by depth over coverage. There are going to be some students who struggle to understand a lesson and we'll give them extra help. And there are going to be some students who got the lesson and want to know more. We're not sitting just on a teaching, sorry, somebody sent me something. We're not only relying on teaching from a book from A to Z. We're trying to teach you so that you understood A through Z, not just learned and memorized it. Goals apply to all students. That means at the end of the day, we still want to know that you understood that equation or that you can recite the ABCs, but we also want to make sure that you understood it the best way that works for you, and that applies to the personalization. Now, this is something that we can do because we're a small school. Our classes have between 10 to 15 students in them, and we have an 11-to-1 student-teacher ratio. That means that in most classrooms, you have one teacher and either a learning specialist or a paraprofessional who is also helping and working with students, all students in the classroom. The student as worker, teacher as coach model. This is something that we do in the classrooms as, you know, regular learning. This isn't something that is special to projects or events. What we mean as we're going to give you some ideas. We're going to give you some topics and let you discover what that means and how your learning is going to look like. So you're going to have regular science class lessons where you're going to learn about weather. But when we're done, we're going to ask you to do a project based on what you learned. And that project could be anything. It could be creating a weather report, or it could be creating a slideshow of, you know, different highs and lows. It is going to be what you want your learning to look like. Demonstration of mastery is also important because the student as worker, teacher as coach model relies so much on the student being an active part of their learning. We rely on what we have as advisories and advisory portfolio check-ins as part of our system of, as the word slips right out of my mind, part of our ability to figure out if you're understanding things. So when we say demonstration of mastery, You're going to have a portfolio meeting at the end of the first semester and at the end of the second semester. And you are going to show your teachers and your parents what you learned, where your struggles were, where your successes were, what inspired you, what you didn't really like. And then you set goals for what your next semester is going to look like, or what your next year of learning is going to look like. In that portfolio, you're going to show us maybe some assignments that were especially rewarding or especially challenging. You're going to talk about learning. Most of us think of, if we're all old school, parent-teacher conferences where the student isn't involved. We don't have that. We have the student actually leading those conversations because it's their education, not our education. We're only there to help guide them into getting that education. The rest of this, a tone of decency and trust, commitment to the entire school, resources dedicated to teaching and learning, democracy and equity. These are whole school attributes. This is something that works its way into how we discipline, how we set standards within hallways or norms in classrooms. We are as transparent with what we're expecting of out of our students as they should be about what they expect from us as educators. So to go into this a little bit more, our story is we were originally the North Central Charter Essential School. We were chartered in May in 2001, and we opened in a renovated mill building with 235 students in grades 7 through 9. After a move to South Street in Fitchburg, we received the gift of the state-of-the-art facility that we are in today. And if you have not been by Sizer School, definitely take a look. It's gorgeous. And if things were different, we'd be having this conversation directly in the school so I could show you how gorgeous it was. The school was renamed in honor of Essential School founders Ted and Nancy Sizer. Hence, we became Sizer School, a North Central Charter Essential School. So when we talk about who Ted Sizer was and what his thought process means to us, Ted Sizer was a leader of education reform. He was the founder of Essential Schools, a professor of education at both Brown and Harvard University, headmaster of Phillips Academy, and a world-renowned author. He and his wife, Nancy, founded the Francis Parker Charter Essential School and were founding members of our school. And I would like to share with you a few words from Mr. Ted Sizer himself on what education should look like.
I cannot teach a student well whom I do not know. Unless I know how his mind works, I do not know why he made the error. He may get the answer on the test wrong, and I can say, Billy, that is an incorrect answer. But I cannot help him learn unless I know why he got the incorrect answer. And I have to know that young man well enough to know if there is a pattern to that error, whether the error he made was simply a chance goof, or whether, in fact, he fundamentally misunderstood the idea. I cannot teach a person I do not know well. Question: how many students can I, the teacher, have in order that I know each one without exception, well enough to know how that child's mind and heart work? And the answer is not 175.
So this speech by Ted Sizer really is what we do at Sizer School. We talk about, or he talked about, needing to know each child well. And I can tell you that that is what we do. Whether it is your head teacher or it is the group of teachers that are going to get together every day and discuss how students work together. Maybe it's the paraprofessional in the room who finds out what students work well together, what skill sets need to be in place for other students to learn better. We become a team that talks, and we get to know your student. One of the things I say all the time is at Sizer, knowing you, that makes us Sizer. And I think it is truthful. And I think in this time of COVID and uncertainty at how education is progressing, the fact that we take a point and make a point of knowing our students and knowing how our students need to learn and what they need to succeed has been able to inform what we've been doing in our classrooms since the start of this, and what we will continue to do, because we've already been doing it. We already know our students. We already have been using all types of teaching techniques to get them to engage and understand, and will continue to do so. We talk about the 10 Sizer School Essentials, but we also have the Sizer 6. And this is something that, on top of your regular academics and on top of everything that we're trying to do to make you a great student, we're also trying to make you a good citizen and a good community member in the world. And that's where the Sizer 6 comes in. And you see community, purpose, responsibility, integrity, voice, and safety. These are the call words. These are our mottos. These are what emphasize what a Sizer student is and what Sizer offers. Take community, for instance. What do we mean by community? It means we believe that everyone matters and that everyone's voice matters. We encourage more and more people to talk and to respond to one another, not in a disrespectful way, but in an active, engaged conversation. We want to understand each other, not just argue or not just give our opinion in this void of the world. We want to help one another belong and feel welcome. We're willing to ask for help and take the risk of offering it to others. Actively practice and build community every day. One of the videos I'm going to show you in a little bit is actually from our last community meeting. We had to do it virtually because of the situation. And it was still as if we were all together in the same room enjoying the, oh, I see my slides aren't, sorry guys, I just saw this. I don't know where my slides went. You see the slides now? Okay. Sorry about that. So our community meeting was amazing, and it was as if we were all in the same room together. We have many community meetings. It's kind of like a big pep rally, but it's more than that. It's also where we get together and share our talents, share our passions, and try to build this sense that we're all in this together. I know we've heard that phrase a lot, but that's something we've been, saying at Sizer from day one. So on top of community, we also have purpose. And what is purpose? Purpose is we know the jobs and tasks and goals that are being expected of us. One of the things that you'll see when you eventually can get back into our classrooms is we have posters up everywhere with Sizer 6, but also with the norms, with expectations. And in every classroom, you have on the whiteboard or on whatever board your teacher decides to use, as well as in handouts that we give and in Google Classroom, you are going to find what the topic of the day is, what the assignment of the day is, what the language goals are, what the learning goals are, so that you know in every which way you can possibly be given it, what is being expected of you as a student. So you never walk into a classroom and go, oh no, I don't know what's happening today. I don't know what's going on today. I don't know what I should be paying attention. We set short and long-term goals. These come up in things like our portfolio meetings, where we're evaluating whether or not you have been able to what has been required of you for that particular assignment or that particular semester. And we want you to be able to talk about that and know what kind of a role you play in the team of 1, being in a classroom, 2, being a learner, 3, being a student, and so on and so forth. We work with intention. So I talk about how we know what our purpose is and what our rules are in every room. We also work with intention. We know that when we get into a classroom, every classroom has a do now or a 5-minute assignment that gets you engaged and working right away. This is with intention working. This is going to lead into what you're doing that day. This isn't busy work. We don't do busy work because there's no use in that. We're mentally and physically present. That's part of why we have 5-minute assignments at the beginning of every class, so we can engage you right away. We have a mission and a direction. Putting the sizer 6 up, the essential common principles, our norms, we have a mission and direction. And above all else, that is to make sure that the goals set by our students and by our learning standards, that they are being met. And we come here to be our best selves. You know, we try to go to school and do the best work, but you know what? Sometimes it doesn't happen. And so there's a lot of communication to know where you are, because if you're not there ready to learn, then we're going to be there ready to give you what you need to get you on the path of learning. Aside from purpose, we have responsibility, and these two come kind of close together because we're role models. That's a student is a role model to another student, that the faculty is a role model to students and other faculty. We make thoughtful decisions and take ownership. We take responsibility of ourselves and others. We recognize strengths and weaknesses. We believe everyone has room for growth. So we talk about what goes on in a classroom and taking your learning and really individualizing and personalizing. Growth doesn't have to be just reaching a standard. Growth can be taking a topic and pushing it to its outer limits, applying it to something else that you're doing it. If we're going cross curriculum, you might be learning something in math that we're going to be able to apply to something that you're doing in physical education. This makes connections. This makes sure that students are understanding as they go through each lesson what is actually being taught. And when we do this, we know that we are growing, we are learning, and we are guiding each other. We also make sure that we are accountable for our actions and have a positive mindset. Integrity. This is something that we all know. It should all be a standard for everybody, but we take it very seriously. We have to make sure that you're being sincere, true to what you believe is right. That's part of why you can individualize some of your education, because if it works for you and you believe that is something that helps you learn, then we're going to work around that and try to get there for you. We say what we mean and we mean what we say. Overused, but also for a reason. That's because if we set out a goal, we're going to reach that goal or try to come as close to that goal, not set a goal and then meander around and have fun conversations about this, that, and the other thing, and then all of a sudden we haven't learned anything. We admit our mistakes and make it right to those who are harmed. We trust one another because we are honest with each other. We treat our building, all rooms, with respect. We have the courage to do what is right and be who we really are. These actually speak very much to what our disciplinary policies look like and what generally we try to keep at the forethought of our minds when we are looking at students who are acting out or having trouble and not being able to meet those norm standards. We're going to figure out why and try to help you out, because we want the students to feel like they were the best selves that they could have been, no matter what the situation was. And if they made a mistake, knowing how to say they're sorry and make it right. Voice. We have words and skills to express ourselves. We have a lot of voice at Sizer. We have voice because we have students who are active and engaged and asking questions. If we sit down and we read a chapter in a book, you better believe there's going to be a discussion. Maybe even a Socratic seminar where students are engaging each other openly and effectively, arguing sides, being able to take a story and break it down to its core roots and find value sets that you can then apply elsewhere. We're mindful of our tone and body language. We know that our voice is what we say and how it is perceived. We encourage others to share and we listen intently. A lot of these you see used in our advisories. And to explain what an advisory is, think of in most schools a homeroom, except your homeroom is about 10 students with one teacher, and those students are the direct advisees of that teacher. And that means every day they meet twice a day. In the morning as kind of a check-in, and then in the afternoon for a variety of different reasons, some academic, some for support, some for, silent sustained reading or things of that nature. But your advisor is the first person that you come to when you have issues or you're having trouble in school. And they're going to be the direct contact between student and teacher and student and faculty and family and school. They're going to be the advisors are going to be the ones who contact home if there's a problem, or email home assignments if a student isn't in. Your advisor is going to be that contact for you every year, and you get a new one every year. And your advisories become mini communities all on their own. You end up doing group activities with your advisories. Every year we do door decorating contests. We do advisory bingos. Sometimes you get with your advisory, and if you're in middle school, get to go out for recess together, because everybody needs a little bit of recess. These are your mini communities every year that you're in school. And you have a voice in how that looks and what happens during your advisory. And then safety, this is a #1 concern across the board, whether we're talking about COVID or general safety questions. We make sure that everyone knows that we're respectful of one another's boundaries, that we keep our spaces clean and organized, have freedom to be ourselves, that we don't bring outside conflict into school. That's part of that whole let's meet with you in the morning in your advisories, check in and see what kind of a day you're having, and see if you're coming in being your best selves. We also want to make sure that everyone treats each other with respect, the way they want to be treated, and that they care to think before they act. So I talked about discipline, and this is a little bit more in general. We talked about the norms. Here you are, you see school-wide norms and hallway norms for cafeteria. So the discipline outside your school is an opportunity, and this is how we see it, to help a student learn a set of skills with direct supervision. So think of it this way. In plain speak, there's no bad student. There is no problem child. What it is a student who has a certain amount of skill sets to deal with the situation. They handled it the best that they could. So how do we step in, teach them skills to better handle it in the future? We believe that a reliance solely on punitive practice or intrinsic reward doesn't prevent or respond to the actual needs being expressed when something disciplinary happens. We have a ton of tools at our disposal for this. We use modeling. Staff are consistent representatives of the Sizer 6 and those 10 common essentials. Our transparency with school-wide and common area norms. The signage is everywhere, so there's never an opportunity for a student to say, well, I didn't know that, because it's literally every which way and backwards. And with an emphasis on de-escalation and mediation, this includes mediation with adults and mediation with peers. At the end of the day, there's a lot that can be solved with actual conversation, and understanding that there are two different sides and how to work things out is going to get a lot more of a long-term response than slamming a book down. So our academics, here are more of the nitty-gritty numbers. Our average class size is between 15 and 20, but we actually are between 15 as a max. 20 would be if it was a special where a lot of students wanted to be in there. And even when it's 20, then you're going to see at least 2 teaching staff in that room, a head teacher and a paraprofessional, or a head teacher and a learning specialist, there's always going to be at least 2 individuals in those classrooms because we try to keep that 11-to-1 ratio. We follow project-based learning. So a lot of people hear that and they think, well, does that mean you don't have tests or quizzes? No, in fact, if you come to Sizer, your learning is going to look a whole lot like other schools. You're going to have homework. You're going to have, you know, math problems to solve. You're going to have books to read and essays to write, but you're also going to have projects. And these projects are what help you personalize and better understand a subject. And when I talk about projects, I mean, they could be anything from something specific to one classroom assignment or an entire grade level project. For instance, our 8th grade team usually does a big event at the end of the year. Last year we had our Commonwealth Fair where every 8th grade student did a project based on Massachusetts. So maybe they researched a historic Massachusetts person or a location or a law, something that was very related to where they came from. We visited Boston. We did a lot of touring on site of historical landmarks just to get ready for that. And then the students created their projects, which ranged from recreating some battleware used in some of our past wars. We had students who researched, for instance, Leominster being the home of the flamingo, and created a whole backyard barbecue scene with flamingos and lawn chairs, and had people building their own wild flamingo projects. Yes, so I mean, when we talk about what a project is, it's basically sky's the limit for most of your classes. The essential question is what leads these projects and make sure that they're not just fluff. Every student will get to know what an essential question is from day one of being with us, because the essential question is where all academics starts. What is the big question we're trying to figure out? In regards to this, well, we're just trying to figure out what is Sizer. And there are so many different facets to Sizer. I could talk all day. Our instruction model, as I said before, is the student as worker, teacher as coach. And our curriculum goal, as I said before, is less is more, depth over coverage. We want to know that you understood, not that you memorized. And we want to know that you are ready to take what you learned and show somebody else, so that we know that you've understood it, not just enough to pass your test, or pass your quiz, or pass MCAS, which our students do take, but that you know it and can use it elsewhere. It's that utilization that takes it from just learning to understanding. Our academics are also overseen by the State Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. So we follow the same standards as every public school. We are a public school, and we are a free public school. The only difference is that ability to be able to allow students the choice of how they're learning, to help a visual student get what they need visually, or a student that needs the hands-on work to make sure that they get hands-on, or the student that really just loves reading and they want to do everything through paper and pen. We got you covered. The choice is yours, because if you don't love what you're doing or you don't understand what you're doing, you're never going to be successful. We have independence in how we teach, but we are held to the same accountability standards as traditional public schools. And if you do a search of Sizer, you will be able to find where we stand as far as our state ranking, as far as what our MCAS scores were last year. You know, we are out there and our information is as public as anywhere else. We are a public school. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. I think the first instinct is to think that we're actually a special ed school, which we're not. We're a school that's small and can do special ed very well, and we do, but that's not who we are. We are a public school and we're teaching everybody. So learning goals. These identify what is essential for students' ongoing success in school. You're going to hear a lot about learning goals. You have a learning goal for a classroom. You have a learning goal for your quarter. You have a learning goal for your semester. Goals are good. Goals keep you focused. Goals keep you headed in the right direction. These learning goals apply to all students, and each student's progress towards mastery is monitored in advisory, as I talked about, through ongoing portfolio development. You'll be able to come in as a 7th grader and by mid-year, show your parents what you've done. And that's kind of cool. Academic assessment. So we talked about how we still have tests, we still have quizzes, we still have MCAS. So we assess based on content and work habits like any other school. So what's your grade academically? Were you behaviorally good? We call it a citizenship grade, but were you held to the norms that we expect every student to? These are all things that we evaluate. Our essential standards align with the state frameworks. Our learning goals apply to all students, and they're continually assessed, receiving daily feedback. This happens during advisory. The advisory teacher can talk to the teams that also teach these students and find out, where they were struggling, where they had successes, and be able to talk to that student in their advisory and follow up. It's that follow-up that's that added bit of being held accountable, knowing what is being asked of you, and making sure that if you need help or you want to take it to the next level, there's somebody there to help you do that. Oh, before I go to the next stage, down at that bottom, this teacher use assessment information. Like I said, that's stuff you can find online. That's your average stuff about who we are as a state level and MCAS scores. But one of the things that we've just started using, and some other schools locally use it, is the iReady diagnostic system in mathematics and ELA. And I want to point this out because this is fundamentally an amazing tool to find out where a student is starting in these two core classes. It's a test that they take, and it changes questions based on the answers being given. So if you're getting all the math answers right, it's going to make it a little harder and a little harder and a little harder. And then when you start getting it wrong, it backs it off. And then it brings it back depending on what the subject is that it's asking you about this time. By the time it's done, we have real-time data about where you are in mathematics and in ELA, what grade level you're starting at, what core learning, core learning fundamentals, what you have. Do you have what is needed to go on to the next step in, let's say, geometry? Do you have the ability to pull out theme in a story? We can find that out in real time so that when you're in a classroom and we're talking about personalized attention to your needs, we know what you need to be working on. We're going to make sure that if you're taking on an extra assignment here, or you're working on an assignment that everyone's working on, that we also say, hey, let's work a little bit on this, or I'd also like to see if you could do this. We're trying to make sure that we're always pushing you to be where you need to be and not feeling like you're not being supported. Our academic assessments are formally printed in progress reports. So you're going to see report cards and progress reports like in any other school, and you're going to see that portfolio. And you're going to be able to do that portfolio on a Chromebook, because all of our students work in very tech-savvy environments. We use a lot of tech in our classrooms. Everybody has a Chromebook that they work on, but we also use a lot of tech for these portfolio and projects that we work on. So you may be taking some tech classes like photography or building. I know a lot of kids are getting into building circuit boards, things of that nature. We've got state-of-the-art printing presses, so you could take a 3D art class. Technology is a big advancement for us that has helped us get through this COVID stage. We've been using technology so much that when we found out schools were closed in March, we were already sending our students home with their Chromebook that day to begin learning the end of that weekend. there was no lapse in coverage for our students as the year progressed, because we were already doing things on Google Classroom. We were already doing things using remote learning techniques without actually using the remote learning. So it was very easy to just step right into the remote learning shoes and be able to still maintain the type of teaching and education quality that we were maintaining before COVID. When we talk about being able to do special education well, we also do advanced well. We offer AP courses, dual enrollment, early college. Our AP courses right now range from AP Physics and Environmental Geography to AP History, Human Geography, and of course, AP Literature and Composition. Our students take the same AP exams at the end of the year. These still show up on their transcripts. Our AP teachers are also able to work with students who are getting ready. I've got, hold on, let me see here. 2019 published MCAS scores show a substantial percentage of students who are only partially meeting the standards. How does this reflect on Sizer's academic preparation for continued education? So partially, and I'm answering this now before I continue going on because it relates. Part of the MCAS scores and the way they look for our school is, one, we're getting students and immediately trying to teach them any standards that they might have missed, any lags in their education before they come to us. Plus, we get a lot of students who come in late to the game sometimes. It's the reason why we enroll 7th, 8th, and 9th, because we'll be able to reach students sooner, be able to get those framework standards set before they start taking MCAS. That doesn't necessarily mean we can get it all done in the amount of time that we have. We are constantly pushing to get those MCAS scores better and better. And if you were able to look at some of the other scores and kind of compare them as we've grown, from a school that started in 2014 to now, our actual MCAS scores have just gone through the roof. And it's kind of been because we've been able to get our footing as a school. We're new, we're still setting our standards, we're still figuring out that balance of how can we give you personalization while still hitting those standards. And we have been just coming leaps and bounds, and as we move forward, we're actually getting an executive director who's coming on from Mount Wachusett, whose whole background is in education, and we'll see the actual academics of what we're offering become even more inclusive and help you raise that MCAS score. I mean, at the end of the day, we're trying to make sure that you understand what we're teaching you. And yes, that you'll be able to understand that for MCAS, but we don't teach to MCAS. We only try to prepare you for it as best as we can. Hopefully that kind of answers your question. We're basing it on seeing those MCAS scores get better rather than here's a year where we didn't do well. Well, why didn't we do well? What can we put into place to fix that? Dual enrollment is one of those things that we offer that brings you to the next level. We go through Fitchburg State and Mount Wachusett, and this dual enrollment is like a lot of high schools where you go to Fitchburg State, you go to Mount Wachusett, you take some classes, and those classes count toward not just your high school diploma, but also college courses for when you go off to secondary education or continuing education. TRIO is also very much along those lines, where TRIO offers funding and competitive grants through the Department of Education to help first-generation low-income backgrounds. These are for students who maybe nobody in their family has ever gone to college before, low income, don't know if they can afford it. We actually have a TRIO office in our building to make sure that all of these students are given every help that they can, every financial advantage that they can, and all of the college prep that they're going to need so that it doesn't become a factor in why they do or do not go to college. When we talk about colleges and careers, there's another thing that we do, which is the early college high school program. And that is specific to not just dual enrollment. This is what we do is about 20%. Is it 20%? About 20% of our 11th and 12th graders end up doing early college, and they stay within their cohorts. So everybody from Sizer who's going to take a psychology class is going together to Fitchburg State. They're taking that course and they're coming back and they're talking about it with their advisors. There's not like, it's like having the college experience without being thrown into the college world too soon. We really see a lot of growth with this, especially in the amount of courses that you can take. Originally, it started as STEM-only courses, but now it has grown because of so much interest and involvement from the community into taking pretty much any course being offered by either one of those colleges. And if you do this program, you walk away, if you follow through at the 11th and 12th grade levels, with a year of college credits completely free. And your books were free, everything didn't cost you a dime, and you have all of that college coursework, all of that college experience, and the benefit of still working with your high school counselors, with your high school peers to be successful. Athletics. Let me talk a little bit about athletics because we are a charter. Our home field is actually Sima Park, which is just a hop, skip, and a jump up from the school. So any sports that we do at the school, we practice at Sima and the whole team walks up together. All home games and practices are held there with the exception of winter basketball, which we can obviously do in our gym. We really have a great program. And because we're a small school, we really started off offering a few athletic teams. We couldn't fill them all. That's why we began working with other school systems to co-op so that we could offer as many athletic opportunities as possible. So if you see here, in the fall, we offer varsity soccer and junior varsity, hockey, and cross country. In winter, we can do all the basketball. And then if you want ice hockey or wrestling, we co-op with Monty Tech and you can be a part of their team. And ice hockey with St. Bernard's, you can be part of their team. In spring, we have our varsity softball and lacrosse. We have co-ed varsity track and junior varsity lacrosse. These change and grow depending on need. We have teams that start up simply based on the fact that there was interest. We have a teacher right now who's looking into possibly, I think, bringing rugby in, but don't quote me on that one. It all depends on what we can achieve and how much interest is in it. So if you don't see a sport on there that speaks to you, that doesn't mean you can't have it or that we can't do something about that. Because one of the things that you can do as a student is start your own club. And other clubs on top of this that are sports related, we have a cheerleading club, we have a dance club, we have a theater arts club, and everybody knows about CETA, I'll get to that. And we have badminton. Those are just a few, and that's because people were interested. So you could actually start your own co-ed sports team if you wanted to. CETA, our theater arts program. If you have heard of Sizer at all, it is probably because you've seen or watched one or been to one of our CETA performances. We have an award-winning theater department and teacher who is just phenomenal. Urinetown got canceled, but this past year we were able to do The Last Time I Cried, which was literally written and performed by students. So the idea was write something about the last time you cried and perform it. And it was absolutely amazing. Then they performed I Cockroach and it was just hilarious and wonderful. And Urinetown would have been amazing had we been able to have our year as planned. Now, normally at this point, I would show you a performance by one of our students of Ophelia, but I did want to show you that we had 2 students perform for us in our last virtual community meeting, and I would like to share with you their performance because it really speaks to the level of professionalism, the level of talent and dedication that our students have. And these are 2 of our, 2020 graduates.
I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn, and we are led those who help us most to grow if we let them, and we help them in return. Well, I don't know if I believe that's true, but I know I'm who I am today because I knew. Like a comet pulled from orbit as it passes a sun, stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? Cause I knew you. I have been changed for good. It will make that we will never meet in this lifetime. So let me say before we part, so much of me is new to what I learned from you. You'll be with me like a handprint on my heart. And now whatever way our stories end, I know you have written mine by being my friend. Like a ship long from its mark by a wave of the sea, like a seed dropped by a skybird in a distant wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? But because I knew you, because I knew you, I have been changed for good. And just to clear the air, I ask forgiveness for the things I've done you blame me for. But then I guess we know there's blame to share, and none of it seems to matter anymore. Like a comet pulled from orbit as it passes a sun, like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. Who can say I've been changed for the better? I do believe I have been changed for the better. And because I knew you, because I knew you, because I knew you, I have been changed for good.
there's just something that kills me about how you can have students like that, perform like that, completely separate from one another, and yet right there together at the same time. Make sure I'm still sharing the right screen with you. So let's get back to where we were. All right. Colleges and careers, athletics, theater arts. Now, I'm also going to show you one more video, but I'm going to wait till the end to show that one because we're running out of time. So I'll kind of do that as an outro. It's a video that we took when we first opened that is actually a really good look at the inside of the school. It was a lip sync video that our students made. In fact, some of them, the first day they had ever walked into the building. And it's really something amazing to watch, to see a whole community come together. Some of the faculty that are in that video, despite being that six years old, are still with us today. And it was really great watching this just recently, as some of those 7th graders were actually just graduating from us as class of 2020. So a little bit more about enrollment. Sizer is chartered for up to 400 students between the grades of 7 and 12. Annually, we only enroll in 7, 8, and 9th. We typically do not enroll for 10th, 11th, and 12th per our enrollment policy, and you can actually find that on our website at www.sizerschool.org. The entire enrollment policy is there for you to look over, and if you want a copy, please, by all means, I will put my email in the chat so that you can email me for a copy of the enrollment policy. There we go. So our lottery, and I'll let you read some of this. This is the official policy on our lottery. It takes place, oh, sorry, somebody in the waiting room. It takes place several times a year depending on enrollment, and it's completely fair, it's completely random. The only difference is a computer does it instead of someone picking out of a hat for enrollment. So our electronic lottery is conducted basically from what you apply in schoolment with. You'll be invited to a lottery. In fact, some of you, if you've already applied for the 7th grade, will be invited to a lottery at the beginning of July. And it's basically a process that takes all student applications and uses weighted preference based on if a sibling is already attending and if you are in one of our chartered towns, and then makes a random lottery assignment. These lottery preferences, as I was talking about. So if you have a sibling that is enrolled in Sizer School, you are given first preference in that lottery. The second preference is also given to sending districts. Those are those districts that you see below that include Ashburnham, Lunenburg, Townsend, as well as Fitchburg, Leominster, and surrounding towns. We're chartered with all of those. Transportation, given that, is the responsibility of the parents and guardians. Our early drop-off is 7:25, and our school day ends at 2:45. Students who reside in the city of Fitchburg are eligible for bus transportation within the mileage guidelines established by the Fitchburg Public School District. If you are concerned about transportation and you do not live close enough to Sizer, there are other things. Our guidance department could put you in contact with some other students who might be from your area who do carpooling. We also offer and work with the Boys and Girls Club of Leominster and Fitchburg, and we have a bus that goes from the school every day to the Boys and Girls Club, so that even if your workday or your appointments go beyond 2:45, your student could potentially go to the Boys and Girls Club simply because you attend Sizer School. So if you're not from one of Fitchburg or Leominster, you can still attend because you're a Sizer student. And I can give you more information if you would like more about that. when. So this is just some dates for you. We originally opened applications on November 1st. These are all for our first lottery. We are accepting applications right now until June 29th, which is what I said. And all you have to do is go in on Schoolmint and set up a profile. It takes 10 minutes. And then from there, if lottery chooses you, you get offered a seat and you register online. It's all quick, all super easy. With that being said, that is the end of my spiel.